All right, welcome. Welcome to Property 2. It's very good to see you all. I know you don't believe me, but I get nervous every semester. It's not just you. I've been doing this for a while, and I still get nervous, so it's good to see everyone in person. A few things to hand out first. So first, I get to learn your names quickly. I have these little name tent cards and markers. So what you do, it's very easy. You just fold this in half, and then you fold in half again, and you write your name in big letters. Whatever you want me to call you, put that in the card. I don't put you right. That's what I'll call you. Okay, so let me put one over here. Around, please. One over here. Pass it around. And one over here. Pass it around. All right. Try not to lose these. Every semester people lose them. I know it's going to happen, but at least try to hold on to at least pass the first class. Second handout will be more fun. So my very first day of teaching was my birthday back in 2012. And I brought cookies for the students. And then the next semester I said, where are our cookies? I'm like, okay, I'll bring them. So I bring them every semester. So I have cookies for everyone. Last nice thing I'll do for the semester, I promise. We're done. So pass these around, please. There's enough for everyone. If there's not, I have more in my office. No, it's not my birthday, but I do have tradition. My birthday was in August, so. Well, it should be enough for everyone, I'm sure. All right. Fun stuff aside. So a funny story. My very first class ever was actually adverse possession. First class I ever taught. So I always chuck when I teach this topic. Okay. Do you all have the syllabus? Yes. Good. And really big letters. My vision's getting worse. I didn't have glasses when I first started. So big letters, as big as you can make them. And that will help me a lot. All right. So you all have the syllabus. Do you all have the textbook? Yes. Okay. Do you all have the first assignment? One semester it gets it. I didn't get the assignment. Okay. So you'll have it. There's no excuses. All right. So let me just briefly walk through how I run class, which I think will be helpful. You're all on call every day. And I mean that in every sense of the word. My recitation might be different than how you've done it with other professors. I go up and down the rows. So what's your name? Maxim. Poor Maxim here's first. I'm sorry. But now you're getting a few minutes of head notice. And I go up and down the rows. So first Maxim, and then that's Sarah, and then that's Patty, and then I go up and down to GU, Gwen. You only saw part of the letters. Okay. And they go up and down the rows. You'll get the feel of it. You will get probably one question if you answer correctly. And if you don't quite get it, maybe a follow-up question. It can go longer if you aren't prepared. So just be ready for the questions. Pay attention. So when I'm asking Maxim over here, that means Sarah has to pay attention and hear what I'm saying before because she gets a follow-up question. So I might ask him one question, they ask her a follow-up question, and so on. All right, makes sense? There are no passes if you're not prepared. What I'll probably just do is I'll ask you questions that didn't require doing the reading. Right, so you're all here, right? You're paying attention, so I'll probably start from something very basic and work your way up. That's usually how I handle people who aren't prepared. I figure out pretty quickly if you haven't done the readings. I try to keep the readings manageable. 30 pages is the upper limit. Today is actually in the higher end, usually in the 20s. But it's designed to make it that you can actually read for each class. In terms of the content, you all just finished Property 1, right? Did you use this book, by the way, or a different book? Okay, good. You don't have to buy a new one? A+, good. I hate when that happens. Okay, good. Property 1 and Property 2 are very different classes. Property 1 was very, theoretical, right? Stuff that happened hundreds of years ago. They don't really care about. Who cares about foxes, right? Actually, I like the fox case. But Property 2 is a lot more what you actually thought property was. This is how people buy, sell, acquire, regulate property. And there's no future interest in this class. I promise you. I might mention glyphosate once or twice, but that's about it. So it's a very different class. So, with like torts 1 to tort 2, there's carryover, right? Contracts 1, contracts 2, there's carryover. There's almost no carryover from property 1, which is good. So you're all starting a blank slate. The bad part is it's all new stuff. So you're going to be a little bit unfamiliar with how it works. Make sense? All right. Again, you can call me Josh. I will call you by your first names. That's how I like to run class. It makes things easier. Office hours, I am in my office before this class starts. Do you have class before this? What time does your earlier class finish? Oh, so you have like an hour and change. Okay, good. So if you want to come before class, room 623, I'll be upstairs. You can come say hi. And do you have class after this or my last one of your day? So, okay, some people have class, some don't. Okay, that happens. That's fine. Come by after class. If you can't come before class or after class, email me. I'm pretty quick on the email. I can find a time to meet with you. I generally don't like answering questions over email because I find the questions you're asking me are not actually the question you have, because you know what I'm talking about, right? Where you think you have one question and you realize, okay, oh, I'm asking about something else. So come by, talk to me. I'm always happy to talk to you as well. We will do an in-class midterm. It's not graded, but it will help you get a pulse, sort of a reality check to see where you are in the class. So make sure you take that seriously. What else do I want to talk about before we get started? Reminds me, recording. Yeah, so all the classes are recorded, and that just reminded me to start Zoom. So the first 5 minutes, this will not be on Zoom. I apologize, but it will be on YouTube. So even long before Zoom was cool, I've been streaming my classes on YouTube. I've been doing it for more than a decade. So there's a YouTube playlist. You can subscribe. You can watch it. And there we go. Now we're on Zoom. Sorry about that. People aren't here. Just watch YouTube if you missed what's on first 2 minutes. Okay? So all the classes are on YouTube. I would encourage you to watch a prior year's lecture before class begins. Pick a non-COVID year. The COVID years weren't that good, as you probably imagined. Go back to like 2019. That was a good year, right? Or so. But pick a semester, and I would encourage you to watch this class in a prior year. Why? Unpredictable, right? I don't surprise. Maybe I will surprise you, but I do things more or less the same thing every year. So if you look at how I asked questions from 2019, it's probably a pretty good sense of how I will ask questions this year. It'll be different. Now, I'm teaching the same class twice back to back. I have you all from 2 to 3:30, and I have the evening section from 5:45 till 7:15. No, you can't switch sections. Someone's going to ask me. You can't. The rules are there. I can't let you do that. But I'm teaching the same thing twice in a day. So let's say that you sit here at 2 o'clock and you didn't get something. You go watch the 5:45 lecture on YouTube. Nothing wrong with that. It's fair game. And likewise, the 5:45 lecture can watch yours, right? So it's all fair. I will be using iClicker for attendance, and let me just turn that on now. I will leave it on the entirety of class, and I've gone back. So look, I've gone back and forth on this. Right, some semesters I am very strict, and I say if you're not in your classroom the second the thing begins, you're absent, and I just can't enforce the policy. It becomes impossible to enforce. People come in late, they check in their attendance from from the parking lot and so on. So I will just leave iClicker running for the entire class. It's your obligation to sign in. I won't remind you. I won't say, maybe I will, but I'll probably forget. But sign in for attendance. You should all have it connected to your Brightspace thing. Okay. A few other points I want to mention. Do you all see it on your phone? Is it asking you to sign in? Okay, good. Make sure it's working. Okay. Okay.
It's from December 15th.
Oh yeah, ignore that. I started a class by accident. I'll fix that later. Yeah, I was just testing the thing, and I accidentally started a class, so I can fix that later. So you were not absent. You were all here. On the syllabus, there are a few links I wanted to show you. One of which, again, is the links to the playlist. Yeah, don't do 2020. Those are COVID semesters. Go back to 2019. That was normal. The COVID classes weren't bad, but they weren't the best. So go to a normal semester, and then I think you'll be better off. The class. I also have these links, what I call the class notes. Okay. I don't use the board. I don't use PowerPoint. I don't have slides. Instead, I have these Google Docs, which you can see right here. It's in a folder. if you click this link for section A, URL section A, you'll see a link, class 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. They're all blank. I will update them usually the day of class, so there's not much for you to see in advance. But I encourage you to just look ahead. There'll be some questions, poll questions, which I very much like. I like starting questions. I like starting the class with the poll questions. So just maybe skim them before class, try to answer them. They will get harder as the semester goes on. All right. There's also another link, which maybe some of you found, to the summaries. See, it says I will post summaries of the cases. This will be your friend. So I have written summaries of just about every case we will study. They're very useful. It's better than whatever supplement you can buy. I'm actually writing a property supplement, which will be available in 2 or 3 years, but you get it for free. You're welcome. Okay. I will post them either the day before class, the morning of. The reason why is I want you to do the reading and I don't want you to skate. So they'll be available for you before class, but not too far before class. So look over here. There's a document from Valkenburgh v. Lutz, which I think is our first case today. It's about 2 or 3 pages. They're short, but they focus on the things that I think are important. Maybe you don't think they're important, but it's useful to know what I think is important because that's the person writing your exam, right? So read these before class. It'll take you 15 or 20 minutes. They're not very long. Okay. What else? This syllabus is very detailed. I don't deviate. If I say we're doing these 2 cases today, we're doing those 2 cases today. I will finish. I will cover everything. I don't fall behind unless something unexpected happens. And of course, we've had pandemic and all the weather and all this other stuff, but I'm actually very careful about it. So whatever's on the syllabus is on the syllabus, and that's why you're expected. It's not like read 20 pages ahead. This is what we're covering, and there's not going to be any mystery about what we're covering it. Oh, I like those big names in the back row. That's awesome. Good job. I like that. Excellent. Yes, Hillary. Are there more papers floating around? You can get it? Yeah, wherever. There should be. There are 100. There should be enough for everybody. If they're not, here, take this one. And get this guy a marker, please. So I was watching John Wick. Get this guy a gun, right? Sorry, my humor is very irreverent. If you don't get one, just come to my office. I have more in my office upstairs, and we'll be fine. All right, everyone has a name tag? Yes? Everyone have a cookie? Get these people cookies. More important than the name tags. All right. I'm sorry about it. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So let's start off with a short video, which I think frames the class well. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. I brought refreshments to the movie. So this is a story. So my first class ever, I was teaching this case. I was playing this video. And as I was playing the video, I had a bottle of Nalgene. See how the thing's screwed on here? Didn't have a cap before. I wanted, you just take the cap off. I actually had knocked over the water while the video was playing. And as I was trying to clean up the water, I knocked over my computer. And this is my very first day of teaching ever. And it's actually on YouTube. You actually see the video of me making a fool of myself. So I can only go on from there. All right, so let's play this video and we'll get started. This is a story, now it's about 10 years old, about a adverse possession dispute in Dallas or outside of Dallas. Okay. All right. Anyone hear this story? This is a little bit dated now. You remember this one? Oh, so my first question is, what do you think happened? So Mr. Robinson became a little minor celebrity in Texas. He actually, I'm not joking, it's serious. He actually started giving property lectures to people of how to use adverse possession to take over foreclosed property. Now, this was, again, about 10 years ago, and you might remember it was a foreclosure crisis sort of swept the country. A lot of people had bought houses when the interest rates were very low, and then the interest rates shot up, and they couldn't afford their houses. They were underwater, right? The house was worth more than they owed, so they just abandoned their houses. So the bank had this surplus of houses that no one wanted with massive debt attached to them that were simply empty. So then enter Mr. Robinson, who said, aha, I went to the first week of property class and I learned about this thing called adverse possession. And what did he do? He didn't just walk in there. He went to the courthouse and he filed some paperwork. And he put up a no trespassing sign to signal that this was his house. The cops show up. You heard that part, right? The cops show up. And what the cops say? This is not a criminal matter. It's a civil matter. Again, you guys learned in crim law, if there's a trespasser in your house, you call the police, they remove him for trespassing, right? That's first year law. But he had a different idea, right? His idea was to use adverse possession. So this first question, again, there's no right or wrong answer. I always just try to get pulse of where the class is. So the first question for you, question number one, is who do you agree with here? Mr. Robinson, the squatter, or the neighbor? All right, a second, I have to get this thing started. All right. Okay, Mr. Robinson or the neighbor? Who do you agree with here? Of course, if that didn't work. It'd be too easy if class works on the first day normally. Oh, you're going to do this to me now, aren't you? Show of hands. I'll hear later. Who here agrees with Mr. Robinson? Show of hands. All right. Who agrees with the neighbors? Wow. Okay, so this is a very Mr. Robinson heavy class. All right, so Maxim, you voted with which one?
The neighbor.
Okay, so why do you, and by the way, if anyone used not black on their card, please use this. I can't see it. These highlights, it's not, my eyes are fading. So Maxim, why do you go with the neighbor here?
I've always thought that adverse possession was just dumb.
Was just what?
Dumb.
You thought it was dumb. Why do you think it was
the whole
dumb?
concept of it.
Why?
If you're I don't know, personally I just think if I own property somewhere, I should just be able to know that just by not being there, someone can
Now I have to ask, you always thought, did you know about adverse possession before two days ago?
since last semester.
Okay, fine, fair. Okay, so it's a dumb idea, right? Sarah, what do you think? Which one did you vote with?
Mr. Robinson.
How come?
Because from what I read, obviously, whether you're doing it malice or not, depending on the state you're in, doesn't matter. And in this instance, he possessed it. Person who possesses the property didn't do anything about it. He has full possession. They don't. Also, he has, exclusive control, no trespass lines, chains, locks, things of that nature. So I think that even though it's crappy what he did,
Crappy. We got dumb. We got crappy. Oh boy. Let's try more lawyerly words. What might a different word you guys want to use?
It's was done out of malice. Doesn't matter in the situation.
Okay, fair enough. Patty, what did you put for this one?
I'm actually torn. So, I get what the neighbor's saying. I personally think
It works. I got to work. Okay, good. Just put your numbers in, Patty. Please continue giving your answer. Sorry to interrupt you.
it's the law. So obviously, Mr. Robinson.
But why is it the law? All right, so let's actually start having some law questions. We got crap, we got dumb, right? What's the what's the reason why adverse possession has been around for centuries? He said this is not a new thing. Remember he said that, right? We've had adverse possession for like 800 years, more or less, right? Why do we have adverse possession, Patty?
So if you're not gonna take care of your own property. The concept that you shouldn't, why should the government?
Right. So Gwen, let me ask you a question. Who is at fault here? Mr. Robinson or the bank? Who's at fault?
What, didn't they go out of business?
Well, the bank issued a mortgage to someone, and the people just walked away from the house. They didn't pay their bill. They just walked away. So I mean, who's they? The bank?
Well, the original owner.
Right. So the original owner is at fault. They walk away from the house, and the bank's left with this house with this mortgage on it. Right. So who? But my question for you: who's at fault? There's two options: the bank or Mr. Robinson.
In that case, the bank,
Why is the bank at fault?
because they're allowing this to happen.
So what should the bank have done in this case, Gwen?
To the house.
Well, take it from who?
I guess the original owner.
Right, but the original owner's left.
I don't know.
Okay. Sydney, what should the bank have done here, Sydney?
I'll file a lawsuit.
Against who?
Got him out.
Against who?
The Robinson.
Mr. Robinson, right? So they could have taken action to evict Mr. Robinson. Okay, so will it surprise anyone if I tell you what happened in this case? So after this guy went on the news and became a minor celebrity, what happened? The bank found out and promptly ejected him. Oh, did you think he made 3 years? Did anybody think he made 3 years? Wow, I'm okay. I gotta admit this. Okay, so let's see. We got 80, almost 90% for. I gotta tell you, most of the times it's pretty split down the middle. So this is all right. That's where the class is. That's fine.
Where are you?
Where am I? I don't know where I am. So let's think about this for a minute, right? Adverse possession exists. I think Patty and Sarah made this point. Because we're trying to put property to the highest potential use, right? And if property is just sitting there, vacant, empty, for a long period of time, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it happens to be, then that's a waste, right? And shouldn't we as a society prefer a system where property doesn't just sit vacant, that's being put to a higher use, right? Now, I think that argument makes sense when you're talking about a farm, right? Or a place where you grow crops, right? You don't want just land sitting there not growing. But Alejandra, we're talking about a house in a wealthy suburban neighborhood of Dallas with the guy's got no running water, no power, no sewage, nothing, no heat, no AC. Is his sitting there on that chair in the living room actually improving or cultivating or putting the land to any sort of higher use? No. How did you vote in this case?
I voted for him.
Does that affect your answer? The fact that he's just sitting there and not actually doing what adverse possession is designed, which is meaning putting the land to a higher use? Does that affect your answer at all?
Not really. I mean, if the land or like if his house got like out of control, like run down, then maybe. But
I mean, let's just be real for a minute, right? How long do you think you can sit in a house that has no sewage, no running water without making some problems? No, one at a time. One at a time. Yeah, go ahead, Alejandro.
I mean, less than a year, obviously.
I mean, okay, I don't want to get gross, but I mean, bathroom, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You're going to run a hose from a neighbor's house? You need running water to exist. I mean, we just had this freeze a month or two ago. No power, no water. It's hard to stay in your house very long. Yeah. So what's your name? Fernando.
I guess the immediate thing that comes to my mind is it's not just about his use or his property. Like what you're saying would be it could become a public health issue, and it also could impact his neighbors, the value of their house, or things
Good.
that are happening on his property could be affecting his.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it Julian?
Well, I was gonna say, as far as the utilities go, if he has the financial means to do so, could he not just call a utility company?
Would the utility
Running?
connect? Would the utility provide services to a squatter?
Well, would they know he's a squatter? Like,
Well, I guess it's a fair point. I mean, I don't know if you ever had utilities signed up, but usually you have to provide some proof of ownership at some level. No?
I mean, at least not for my electricity. I didn't have to say that I have a lease with this apartment.
No, I turned on utilities for other people.
Okay, fair enough. I will say that I've read stories of people squatting houses where they run electrical cables from a neighbor and they run water hoses from neighbors, and that can create fires. It's actually very risky. Yeah, is that Randall?
Yes, sir. So if he's maintaining the yard and other things that would be, I guess, determined by the HOA and everything, wouldn't he actually be improving it if he's not allowing the yard to go on theft or
Yes.
anything like that nature?
And that's exactly right. Okay. I think if he did set up utilities, and let's assume he can, right? And he paid the utilities, and if he paid the property taxes, which do accrue year by year, and if he took care of the garden, then you'd actually make the case he might be improving the property. All right. So again, adverse possession is one of these topics that people often have very mixed things. Maybe it's dumb, I don't know, right? But it, in some senses, rewards the bad doer. In another sense, you're rewarding a person who's putting the land to a higher value. See, Alex.
I think like, isn't it kind of avoiding the lease bad doer though?
The lease bad doer.
Because the lease doer is the guy who's wasting the property by not doing anything to it.
Well, why is he wasting it?
Uh,
Maybe that's what he wants. Maybe he wants the property to just sit there and come back to in a couple of years.
But as like a public policy, you know, the reason adverse possession exists is because we buy property, we put to the highest use possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, it's a waste.
Hillary?
And also, I feel like, obviously, I don't know the guy, but if he's a pretty good guy, then some other bad people could have moved in.
And
being there-
actually, made it a drug den, right? This actually does happen, right? A lot of these houses that just become vacant can be occupied as like a drug house
Or if, like,
for
let's
crime.
say he hands out candy on Halloween. To me, that's like you're helping the community. Is it big? No, but it's an improvement to someone, to the neighbors and stuff. It's
I'll take it. Jillian.
I was gonna add, like, as far as societal norms of how we are able or not able to afford houses right now, for me, like, the reason I voted for Mr. Robinson is like, if that house was, say, somebody's like second or third or fourth property that they just don't attend to very often, and so somebody else comes in who normally couldn't afford the property of their own, and they're able to adversely possess this property that's nothing but an extra house.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that is better for society to allow people to get houses that normally can't.
Right. But keep in mind, 3 years. That's what he said. 3 years. Or is it 5 years? Or is it 10 years? All right. So let's actually go into the mechanics of how adverse possession works. And I know law students love elements. You love elements, right? By the way, the exam's open book, completely open book. It will not, your notes will not help you. Do not use Chat GPT. For the love of God, don't. You know what this is, right? Yeah. Right. Chat GPT is an AI bot, and it will answer questions for you, and it will generate. People writing this down quick, right? It will generate very human-like responses. So if you say, "What are the 4 elements of adverse possession?" It'll tell you. Oh my God, yeah. No, it's pretty good. Some of my colleagues actually let similar software take the bar exam, and it's very coming close to passing. You're like, oh my God, that's awesome, right? So, I'm really, yeah. Thanks, Daisy. So the exam's open book, no internet, so you can't use Chat GPT, so that will not work for you. But the exam's open book, so don't kill yourself memorizing these various elements. There's a lot more things you have to learn in this class, but I do want to at least go through the elements there. Daisy, you're there. Okay, so not checking the Chat GPT. What are the 4 elements of adverse possession, please? Oh yeah. Oh, you gotta look at your notes. You have your notes. I see lots of highlights and post-it notes in your book.
Open.
I need them in order. 4 elements, please. Maria, you're on deck. Just get ready. I'll give Daisy another few seconds. This is a very important part of the class. Maria?
Oh, right here.
Oh, you have it? Okay, good.
That there be an entry that is actual and exclusive, open and notorious, continuous for the statutory period, and adverse and under a claim.
All right, Daisy, so let's start with the first one. What does entry mean? Why is that an important element of adverse possession?
It has to be, it deals with the actual possession of the property.
What is entry?
To enter.
And what is define without defining it, right? What does it mean? What does entry mean? What would we usually call entry in any other context? When Mr. Robinson walked into the house for the first time, what was he doing? Oh, he was entering, but what would you call that, like in torts or criminal law, just as a general matter? No, don't shout the answers, please. What do you call when you walk into someone else's property? Trespassing, yes, that's right. Adverse possession requires a trespass. Just think about that just for a minute, right? The very first thing you do for adverse possession is you trespass. You enter the property of another without permission. That's black letter trespass, right? You know, that's very basic. But why is entry, Maria, why is entry such a significant element of adverse possession? What does the entry signify? What does that tell us we're doing?
You take possession of the land and it starts running the statute.
Yes. What does that mean? You start running the statute of limitation. Just spell that out for me, please. What does that mean?
Well, if it's like 10 years for the statute of
Correct.
limitations from the day you took possession.
Not that you took possession the day you did what?
Oh, you trespassed.
Entered. Correct. Very good. We have a clock, right? Adverse possession has a clock that goes tick, tick, tick. It might be 3 years, it might be 5 years, it might be 10 years, whatever the period happens to be. Right? The entry is the day on which that clock starts tick, tick, tick. Clock starts ticking. All right. So the entry is a significant moment because it triggers the beginning of adverse possession. Mr. Robinson, I don't think he made it a week there. Maybe 2 weeks, I can't remember, but it wasn't a very long period of time. But he started the clock. And he said, 3 years, that's mine. Well, he didn't make it nearly that far. Right? Because the second element, he was very, very good at satisfying. Right? Julia, what's the second element of adverse possession, please? What does that mean? Open and notorious. What does notorious mean?
The property owners will notice that someone.
Yes. Why is it important that your entry, that your presence must be open and notorious? Why is that important, Julia?
Does it tie back to the statute of limitations that they're aware?
Let me ask the question this way. Paolo, let me ask you this question. In order to adversely possess property, what must you give the actual owner an opportunity to do?
To check their land, so it has to give them notice.
Correct. Why do they need notice? That's the important word, notice.
So they can take action.
What is that action?
To try to eject them.
Eject them, right? If Mr. Robinson, just imagine the different facts, had just snuck into the house and stayed there quietly for 10 years, didn't tell anyone, just sort of sat there quietly, twiddled his thumbs for 10 years, stayed real quiet, and the bank never knew about it. Does that make a claim for adverse possession, Paolo?
No, because they told me.
Correct. You need to have open. Notorious means like notoriety, right? It's got to be public. You have to take steps to put the actual owner on notice. Very important. Mr. Robinson did that real good, right? Guy went on TV, right? He made no secret about it. In fact, he did more than go on TV, right? Daniel, what did he do to absolutely make it a matter of public record that he was squatting in his house? What did he do?
He went to City Hall, right? And filled out well, it said on the screen, affidavit of adverse.
You were paying attention. Very good. Yeah, exactly. What was the purpose of that affidavit, Daniel?
Well, to make his possession notorious.
To whom?
Oh, it's to gain color of title.
Oh, you're
right?
like 5 questions. You're exactly right.
Okay.
What's color of title?
It's well, it's like a deed. It doesn't have to be actually registered. It doesn't have to be actually legitimate.
Good. All right, so he gave me like 4 answers. Oh, very good. Let me unpack them, right? So first off, what happens, right? Mr. Robinson was not being secretive about it. He was going on TV, telling anyone who wants to talk to him. He also filed paperwork. It said, and it's hard to see, I know it's moving quickly, it's an affidavit of adverse possession. Right? Affidavit of adverse possession. The purpose of that document was to signal to the county, as a matter of record, that I, Mr. Robinson, am squatting. I'm here. And you know what? The bank is charged with the duty of checking property records. And the bank has no excuse saying, wait a minute, we had no idea. He literally filed it on the records for that piece of property. Had the bank gone to, the county courthouse and, done their due diligence, they would have seen this paperwork filed. All right, so the second element is satisfied, no question, right? He was open notorious. Is that Ivan? Ivan, what's the third element we have here for adverse possession? Okay, what that means, how's that work?
They have to adverse possess in a uninterrupted sequence of time.
Does that mean they have to stay in the house 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365? Okay, so what does it mean continuous? Just in like plain language.
The land reasonably to what the land was made for, I guess.
Okay, very good. The continuity requirement, the continuous requirement, it can be a little tricky, right? It does not mean you have to sit there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No one expects that. Rather, the standard is you have to use the property in the same fashion that the actual owner would use it. So if it's like a summer home, right? You'd only be expected to go out there in the summer. If it's a ski resort, right? Maybe you only expect to go there in the winter, right? You're allowed to go to work during the day. You're allowed to, go visit people on the weekend, right? But the continuity requirement requires the period to be continuous. We will talk in the next class what happens when different people combine their time together. That's called tacking. If you did the reading already, Tacking, tacking. That's next week. But for now, we're just doing the easy one with just one person. Mr. Robinson sits there for 3 years, or is it 5 years? Or is it 10 years? So Texas law is varied. I pasted here for your convenience. The code is the Texas code, and you don't need to know this. I'll tell you what the limitation period is, but this might be useful for you. Otherwise, there are 3 different limitation periods in Texas. There's a 3-year limitation period. There's a 5-year limitation period. And there's a 10-year limitation period. Okay. So this first one, I know it might be hard for you to read. Let me make it bigger. I'm sorry. There it's a little bit bigger. Okay. This first one, and if you can't see this, you have a link to it on your screen. So you can look at it on your own screen. So that's why I do the Google Doc. It's on your own computer, so you don't have to squint. When I first started, I didn't wear glasses. Now I do, so my vision gets worse every year. So I have to be sympathetic. The first one is a 3-year period. If you possess adversely under, it says title or color of title. Caitlin, Daniel mentioned this word a minute ago, color of title. What's color of title?
Color of title refers to a claim founded on a written instrument like a deed or a will that shows for some reason defective on.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for that, Caitlin. Color of title refers to, are there any more? I think there's one more 10 card over there. Are there any more? There's one there. You can just get that over there. Yes. Color of title, and get a marker for it, please, as well. Color of title refers to some sort of paperwork, right? Some sort of paperwork which suggests that you have the property, right? So the classic example is you have a crook who sells you a piece of property that they don't own. I promise you on the exam, someone will sell property they don't own. I promise it will happen. I promise. But you have a deed in your hand, right? You have some piece of paper saying, I own Blackacre. Okay? You have color of title. And the law says, if you have some piece of paper which suggests that you're the owner and it turns out to be fraudulent, we're going to use your period, a shorter period of time to satisfy. So instead of 10 years or 5 years, you get 3 years, right? I don't think Mr. Robinson had color of title. I think he fell into this next category, which is the 5-year limitation, right? Which says if a person, and I'm just going to go back to a few you said, cultivates, uses, or enjoys the property. So if he's making the garden grow and all these other things that might give him under this category, pays taxes. I don't know that he paid property taxes, but I think he would have to come under the 5-year limit. Or claims the property under a duly registered deed. I think that's probably what he filed in the courthouse. Now, Robinson said he had a 3-year limitation. I don't think he had color of title, but you know, maybe what do I know, right? But he would be either 3 or 5. Then you have the 10-year period, right? This is the hardest one to satisfy, which means you got nothing. You have no paperwork. You have no deed. You have nothing. So the limitation is 10 years. All right. On the exam, I'll tell you what the limitation period is, but you'll still have to sort of figure out, is it actually continuous? All right. Questions so far? Yes, Ivan.
If you can show that the possessor had knowledge the color of title was invalid, would that default to the 5?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think if, you know, imagine someone sells you this beautiful property for $1 and they give you a deed. You're probably aware this is fraud, and you probably can't rely on the short limitation period.
So the color of title is basically just to help a good faith.
Yeah, I mean, not always, but generally it's for the good faith defendant, I think. Or the good faith buyer, the reasonable buyer. Not always, but probably. Okay. 4th element, Katerina. What's the 4th element? The hardest one of all 4. All right, this is going to take a few minutes. What does that mean? No, we're not talking about documents here. What does the 4th element go to?
What you're actually doing on the property.
Not just what you're doing, a little bit more.
How long?
No. Kayla?
It's kind of like the hostile intent.
Oh, intent. What does intent refer to? Think back to Crim. What do we call that? State of mind. Thank you, Kayla. Correct. The hardest element of the 4. The first 3 you can walk through in my sleep, right? The hardest element of the 4 is the final one, the state of mind. Mens rea, if I could say that without triggering you all, right? Mens rea, right? What's in your mind? The very nature of the term adverse. What does adverse mean? Tension, right? You're in conflict. The very nature of this doctrine evolved in a confrontational context. You know, A owned Blackacre. B said, you know what? I don't care what you do. This is going to be mine, and I'm going to stay here until you throw me off. And if you don't throw me off in 10 years, it's mine. That is hostile, right? You're coming in there with a hostile intent. You're an aggressive trespasser, and it's yours. Then you have someone else, right? You say, you know what? I thought it was mine. I got a bad deed. Someone lied to me. I thought it was mine. I didn't realize I was squatting. And then you have someone else says, you know what? I'm just going to put my stuff here. I don't really care who owns it. Maybe it's mine. Maybe it's not. I don't care. All right. So you have these different standards. And I'll come back to this later in class when we do the New Jersey case. I don't want to do this right now. But the 4th element is the trickiest one because there are different standards of how to satisfy the 4th element. And the fourth element's called different things. Claim of right, claim of title. Right, claim of right or claim of title. Do not confuse claim of title with color of title. You will confuse them, I promise you. In the midterm half, we will do it, right? Do not confuse, I'm saying it one more time, very slow. Do not confuse claim of title, which is a fourth element of adverse possession, and color of title, which refers to the paperwork or some sort of deed suggesting that you're the owner of the property. Understood? We good? Don't confuse them. All right. Questions so far? Yes, sir, Duke.
If a government entity is involved in the land ownership, does that change?
Adversely possessing as the government's tricky. We'll cover the thing in the next reading for next class. But the answer is it's tricky. All right, let's do the first case. Who am I up to? I just called. Okay. Oh, Grayson, are you next?
Yes, sir.
All right, Grayson, you give me the facts, please, in Von Valkenburgh. Oh, what a great name for a case, right? I love this case name. Von Valkenburgh versus Lutz. If you give me the facts, please.
So basically, at the New York Court of Appeals, it's 1912, so a while ago, we have one of those subdivisions, got a bunch of lots, and it all comes down to who owns.
I want the facts, so just give me the facts. What happened?
What happened? Okay.
I'll come back to you. Elise, facts.
It was the Lutz that were there first.
Okay.
And they own that weird one. And
What weird one? So
the 14, 15.
okay, they own lots 14 and 15, as the diagram suggests, right? Okay.
Right. And to get to their lot, it was like a steep grade or something.
Correct.
And so they went through the empty lot and built like a fence and kind of took it over and also built a garage or like a little house for
Good.
the son.
Good.
And then the plaintiff bought the land.
Who are the plaintiffs?
You're gonna make me say the name.
Just what?
The
Van Valkenburgh. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
They actually bought the land with the right papers, and they informed the Lutzes to move off of the land that they now owned it. And the Lutzes said no, adverse possession, it's ours. Or they actually like moved off some of the stuff, but not all.
Good.
And then they went to court, and then I think this case is like their second time around.
Good. Excellent.
And we need more.
Keep going. You're on a roll.
Okay. Then right now the main issue, or do you just want the facts?
Good. Okay, you're good. Thank you. Okay. When I was a 1L, I had a professor, and his rule was you were on call till you got something wrong. So I was once on call for I think 45 minutes straight, and I was just freaking tired. I was tired. I just threw a question because I wanted to get over with it because I knew the answer. And I remember I was like, keep going. It was a contract case. I can't remember what it was, but I just threw a question. That's off my back. I always said, very good, Elise. Thank you. I'll come back to Grayson in a minute. This is a classic case of neighbors who hate each other. Right, the facts in this case are just delicious. They're just fun. Right? You enjoy the facts here? They were. I love this case every when I read it. I do read the cases every year. I try to always keep it fresh. You have two neighbors, right? You have the Lutzes who live over here, lots 14 and 15, and then you have this sort of unowned plot of land, lots 19 through 22. And then for decades, the Lutzes do a couple things. They walk across this sort of triangle-shaped lot, and they also cultivate it. They have a garden. They grow vegetables for the neighbors. The son, Charlie, has a little shed / home / garage there. They use it for storage. They put junk, right? They put stuff along the property. but they use it for many years. There are 2 rounds of litigation, which at least referenced, right? In the first round of litigation, the lawyer for the Lutzes asked for only a very narrow remedy, right? Grayson, what was the remedy that was asked for in the first round of litigation? What did they ask for?
In the first round, didn't the Valkenburgs ask for, they just wanted the land outright?
What did the Lutzes argue? What was the Lutzes argument?
That they were, since they've been there for so long and they've been, cultivating, they have all this stuff on the land that it should be theirs.
Did they ask for the entire plot of land in the first
No,
round?
just the part that they were using.
But what specifically were they asking for the right to do?
Walk across that
Yes, correct. Very good. Thank you, Grayson. In the first round of litigation, the remedy sought was very narrow. They didn't seek adverse possession of the entire triangle of law. They only sought what's called a right of way. A right of way. Jacob, what's a right of way?
Right away, isn't it kind of like a prescriptive easement?
Prescriptive easement, very good. What type of prescriptive easement?
Wouldn't it be like?
What's an easement? My goodness.
I should look that up. I didn't-
Well, you did more than most, so that's good, right? But what's a right of way in plain English? I'll define it for you in a minute.
You're having access to walk.
You can cross it, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so exactly right. Thank you, Jacob. Usually, if you were to walk across this lot, it's a trespass, right? Black letter. But if you have what's called a right of way or an easement, you'll learn about easements later this semester, I promise. You have legal permission to cross. You can sell someone an easement, right? Let's say that your neighbor always wants to cross your land. You can say, okay, you pay me $1,000. I'll give you permission to cross my property. You can do that, right? You're allowed to do that. But a prescriptive easement, which is a very big word, prescriptive, kind of like prescription. A prescriptive easement is where you actually can acquire an easement or acquire right of way through adverse possession. If I cross the same plot of land every day for a decade, the owner knows I'm doing it and never stops and doesn't put a fence or anything. I actually acquire through adverse possession a right of way across that land, an easement. So prescription, adverse possession, it's all the same thing. In the first round of litigation, the lawyer for the Lutzes only sought a prescriptive easement. They only sought a right of way. Ben, would a prescriptive easement or right of way let them keep their farm there, keep their shed there, keep their stuff there? No. So the lawyer screwed up, right? I always make this point the first week of class. Malpractice, my friends, is real. You guys passed the bar. Good job. That's just the first step. You got to do a good job as a lawyer. And if your client has a claim for adverse possession and you only seek a prescriptive easement, you can get sued for malpractice. Because prescriptive easement didn't help with the farm, didn't help with the shed. All it said was you can cross over the lot. That's all they got. All right, so that's round one litigation. They got the prescriptive easement. Then it gets to round two, in which they hire better lawyers, apparently. They go to a New York law firm. And they say, all right, I want the entire, I'll just call it Blackacre, right? I want the entirety of Blackacre. I want all of it. So, Wafa, I think you're next, if I can. The Court of Appeals, by the way, the Court of Appeals is actually the highest court in New York. You may know this. In New York, the Supreme Court is actually the trial court. Why? It said the court is supreme or general jurisdiction, rather the trial court, versus the Court of Appeals is the highest court in the state. So what did the Court of Appeals do here, Wafa?
So the Court of Appeals stated that they couldn't have title by adverse possession because the elements just weren't there. There was no clear who can prove that he was there for at least.
Let's walk through the elements one at a time, okay? So number one, was there entry?
Yes.
Everyone agrees. Number two, was the usage open and notorious? No question, right? The guy went to jail a couple times, right? They knew they were there. But then we have number three, continuous. Was his usage continuous for several decades? Why not?
I guess they weren't using it previously to be there, like they were just kind of using it to walk across and
Ah.
use it that way.
Okay, very good, Wafa. Thanks. Think you got exactly what I was looking for. They were on the land for 30-something years, right? No question. But were they using it for 30 years? Were they cultivating it for 30 years? Hillary, what did the court say, the Court of Appeals say, that what were they actually doing in the land for all those decades?
They were just walking across, but they weren't cultivating until they started building stuff on it.
But they did build stuff on it.
But it wasn't long enough. Like it wasn't.
What did the dissent say? Did the dissent say that the actions of the
Well, just the dissent thought it was enough.
why? Okay, good. Why did the dissent think it was enough?
They thought it was enough because like he cleared the land, they built on the land. Like it didn't matter that he knew. Like it didn't matter that they had asked the easement. Like they lived there, and everyone.
Is it Hessian?
Asael.
Asael, let me ask this question. The statute says that, or let me put it this way: did they cultivate every single inch of the soil, every single inch?
They did.
Did the trial courts, did the Court of Appeals say you had to do every inch of soil?
Pretty much.
Can that possibly be correct?
No, it's not correct.
Tell me, why do you think that possibly cannot be the correct answer?
It's possible to do that, to use every inch.
Right. Okay, good. So I think Wafa, Hillary, and Asael give me exactly what I was looking for. He was there for all those years, right? So technically, he had continuity, right? He had continuous usage. But the court said he didn't use all of the property. He only used part of the property. That's wrong, right? Just because something's in your book doesn't mean it's correct. And usually when there's a case followed by a dissent, it's a very good odds that the dissent has a better argument. That's just a rule of thumb. Are you taking constitutional law this semester? Yeah, well, definitely in that class. I also teach common law. But property for sure, if there's a case for the dissent's probably a better argument. So again, so element 1, no dispute, there's entry. Element 2, open notorious, no dispute. Number 3, was it continuous cultivation for all those years? Court of Appeals says no. As for the 4th element, oh yeah, that was hostile. There was a lot of hostility there. So really the case turns on element number 3, right? What about the claim of right though? Right? Isn't it obvious that there was hostility? Here the court does something kind of weird, right? The court says the failure to use all of the property means they have no claim of title. The court, so Waff and Hillary said the usage goes towards the continuity element, which I think actually makes more sense. What the court actually said here is it goes to the element number 4. Right? What the court said is the 4th element's not satisfied because they didn't use the entire lot. Now, I actually agree with Hillary, Wafa, and Asael. This was about continuity. That's actually where I think it fits better. They don't have the same thought when you read the case. Anyway, there's a lot that I think is wrong with the majority opinion, right? But not the least of which is there's no requirement to use every inch of the soil. There's never a requirement for that. That cannot be correct. All right. The dissent, I think, makes the better case that you look to how property is reasonably used, and their use is reasonable. Okay. Questions on the facts in von Valkenburgh? Yes, Ivan.
So how, for average possession purposes, how is the amount of land determined? Is it by acres? If you don't have to use every inch of it?
Oh, let's do poll question number 1. How about that?
Okay.
Walked right into that, my friend. I'm sorry. All right. It's just number 1. Oh, I'm sorry. Poll question number 2. I'm sorry. So take a few moments. Poll question number 2. Now I'll read it if you can't. It's on your screen. It's on your phone. It's on a million places. But O owns and has been in possession of a 100-acre farm since 1975. In 1984, A entered the back 40 acres under color of an invalid deed from Z, who had no claim to the land, the entire 100 acres. Since her entry, A has occupied and improved the back 40 acres in the usual manner for the period required by the statute of limitations. Okay, so what's the answer? Choice A acquired all 100 acres. A acquired only the back 40 acres. A has not acquired any land, or none of the above. Okay. All right, I think I got everyone. Put your answers in. 5 more seconds. I try to keep these under a minute so the class doesn't drag on for too long. I think it's about 50 in your section, give or take. I think about 50 of you here. All right, close enough. All right. Who's next? How do you say your name? Estrelita? Okay. What's your answer here? You put A. Requires the entire one. Why'd you put A?
Because she got the deed for the entire 100 acres, and like we just spoke about, she didn't have to use all 100 acres to get possession, and then she satisfied all the other elements.
Did A ever enter the front 60 acres?
Not when the facts were given.
So the answer is no.
No.
So is the first element entry satisfied for the front 60 acres?
I guess it depends how the land is separated. If it's all open,
There's a divide. That's what the question says. Want to modify your answer?
then there's a clear divide between. I don't know, because then it falls into the question, like, if I enter the house, am I using the whole lot or just the house, the front part of the house?
You're finding the question. It's smart. It's good. All right. So my answer, and not that the book is always right, is B. And the reason why I think it's B, and I think your point's fair, is we just did a case that says you don't have to use the entirety of the property, right? But I think the key point here is entry. And at least here it seems that there was no entry to the 60 acres, right? The question specifically says, I'll go back to it, A entered the back 40 acres, right? If I tell you in the question, he enters one part and not the other, don't assume there's entry for the entire thing. So even if the continuity element might be satisfied in the claim of title, you fail entry.
Is there a difference if O lived on those 60 acres or not? If O just wasn't on the premise?
If O is still on the 60 acres, it's hard to argue that you were there adversely. It would be almost like he's letting you be there, right? Generally, for you to be adverse, that's to be exclusive, right? You can't have someone living there. So I don't think that would work. Yes, Ivan.
So kind of with the question I had asked, what increment did they give it? If he would have entered, or if A would have entered the 41st acre and just stood in a square foot of it, would he be
I
entitled to the
love
entire
these
acre?
questions, right? Property is often very messy, right? And this is maybe why Estrelita is having a problem with this question as well. This question was written as if there's a clear divide, right? There's a clear demarcation between the first 40 and the back 60, right? In reality, it's not so clear. And I think you will see some questions we'll do later where the boundaries are not clear at all, how much you're actually squatting. And these are hard questions, in fact. So there's not a good answer I can give you, but you're asking the right question. Alexa?
I'm just going to ask, would it be a bit of the color title on the entry?
The effect of the color of title would only affect how many years he has to squat, right? Because at least in Texas, if you have color of title, it's 3 years versus 5 years. In this case, he's been there for about, 20-something, so 30-something years. So I don't think it would have much effect at all. Yes, Sarah?
So in this instance, because it's something that would probably be, like they say, if it's inconvenient and you're trying to evict someone from a parcel of land, they can have the option to pay the market value. Is this one of those situations where you would be able to pay the market value for the 40 acres to? be able
Well,
to title?
there's no obligation to sell it though, right? I mean, the owner, the owner, right?
Right.
Could choose to sell it or not. It's not his requirement. What's adverse possession makes unique is you have no choice. You lose it.
Okay.
The court will compel the sale. Yes, Duke.
What if, O had some cattle?
Somewhat?
Cattle.
Cattle, okay.
And using the back, would that?
Presumably, if there's cows there, you have to go there to tend to them, so it would not be exclusive usage, right? This adverse possession only works if the usage is exclusive. I don't think it would work if there's cows. Yes,
How would that work in the case where you're maybe using the parcel of land for like conservation?
Oh, is conservation cultivation?
Oh.
So that is, you're not growing anything. You're like the
You're
land
like
life
living in it.
fallow, right? It's like empty. I don't know if there's a single definition of cultivation. I think you could probably say that preserving the land is actually using it.
Then you may not be using that off of it.
Yeah, good question. Randall?
Couldn't this point also show some type of neglect on the part of the owner by letting it grow?
Correct. And that goes to the question of cultivation. If you're actually improving on the land, that can help you get them through the limitation of 5 and 10 years. Good questions. All right. By the way, this is on page 92 of your book, so this question's in your book, and it's not like a mystery. Let's try question number 3, please. So 2 contiguous lots, 1 and 2, are owned by X and Y respectively. So these are 2 lots next to each other. X and Y are not in possession. Both lots are conveyed by an invalid deed from Z to A, who enters lot 1 and occupies it in the usual manner for the period required by the statute. What happens here? A acquired lot 1 by adverse possession. A acquired lot 2 by adverse possession. All of the above. All right, another 10 seconds. I'm going to stop it there. Fernando, I think you're next. What's your answer here?
I chose A.
Okay, why'd you pick A?
Because I felt like agreeing to 2 belongs to A contiguous, and they're owned by the same person. Person A entered into it.
Right.
And he's using it in the usual manner.
Right. Was there entry into lot 2?
No.
So, okay. Again,
Not
entry.
according to the question, at least not the way I read it.
Don't assume facts on a question. So if I say he enters lot 1, that's all he enters. If I say he only enters the back 40, that's all he enters. Presume the question is what it is. I'm not trying to trick you. And it often happens that really smart students, which are all very smart, start assuming facts on the question. That's you get in trouble. They don't do that the first year of law school, first semester. You assume facts on the question? No, I did. I sure is. What about this fact? Not there. Okay, so the answer is A. That's correct. They won't all of you get this one right. Some of you put all the above. There is no adverse possession for lot number 2. There's no entry. Yes, Julian.
The book references constructive possession, and when we learned about color, title, and property 1, our professor mentioned that if the instrument describes the entirety of, in this case, being lot 1 and 2, and
Did you do adverse possession already?
with Coolander, we did a little bit about.
Oh, you did. So that's why you're also prepared. I knew Chris covered it. All right. Well, go on. Sorry.
So in this case, the document or the instrument conveys lots 1 and 2. And since X and Y are not in possession of 1 and 2, but A is in possession of 1, the document describes 1 and 2.
Oh, I see. Constructive.
Because at that point, he'd be acting a color of title, because there's an issue.
There's gonna be no entry.
Guys, just one at a time. I'll get a raise your hand. All right, so you're saying because the deed referred to both of them, you're saying there could be constructive possession for the second lot.
Yes.
I think you still need entry though.
Okay.
I think you're right on the limitation period that you can take advantage of the shorter period for color of title. But since there was no entry on lot number 2, I don't think you get there. That's the first element. You got to enter. Alexis.
Is that also, like, does that tie into why both question 2 and 3 mention it being an invalid deed?
Correct.
We can remember that it's a color of title.
Correct.
Situation?
I mean, think of it this way, right? If there's a valid deed, then it's theirs.
Right.
Right. In this question, every example of a crook, I promise you. Someone selling land that they don't own. I promise you. Good question, yeah. Yeah, it's no surprise these are all valid deeds, because that's hard. If people sell property legally, there's no fun, so I think persons do, right? Okay, they sold the land. Congratulations on a transaction. Okay. All right, any other questions on these two poll questions? Yeah, we're good. Oh, Coolander, cover this. What else did he cover the other stuff we're teaching? I can just this. Did you do the next case, Kunto? You did the next class already? I was actually like, wow, these people are on their game. They really know this stuff. I mean, I was actually impressed. I mean, not like the Chris. I was like, wow, this first day of class, we're gonna have a good semester, man. I'm feeling all good. See, if you didn't mention that, I'd never have known. He sold it. I remember when I was in 2nd grade. I'll never forget this. The teacher forgot to assign homework. And at the end of the day, I said, "You forgot to assign our homework," and that bus ride home was not pleasant. So, all right, a question? All right, let's do the next case then. I like the facts. Who's next? Duke, I think you're next. The facts. The next case from New Jersey. Howard versus I'm sorry, that's next class. Manillo versus Gorski. And by the way, maybe Coolander told you the same thing. If there's any case from New Jersey, it's not the majority rule. Did he say something like that? Right? Every case we have from New Jersey departs from the common law rule, without fail. Any case you have from Jersey versus the common law rule. Oh yeah, there's some beach cases there. There's the Jersey Shore. I'm from Staten Island, which is very close to New Jersey, and I spent a lot of time there. All right, Duke, facts please in Manillo.
The defendant bought, I guess they bought some land. And when they were doing some improvements, built the concrete steps and a concrete walkway, and then eventually they had to raise the house. And when they did, they encroached 15 inches onto the neighbor's property. And so the neighbor filed, I guess, encroachment or litigation.
Trespass, yeah.
Trespass. And in the trial court, they ruled in favor of the defendant, saying that there was adverse possession. And it was appealed. And I guess to the Supreme Court of New Jersey, and they overruled it. They went back and said that there wasn't, because one of the elements wasn't satisfied.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that, Duke. All right, so again, this is a case from New Jersey. It was from actually Keansburg, New Jersey, which is not too far from the Jersey Shore. This was a case of mistaken construction, right? You have two neighbors live next door to each other. One neighbor builds a staircase out of concrete and a walkway. And with no malintent, there was none, there's an encroachment. That is, they trespass onto the neighbor's lot by about a foot, 15 inches. Now, in any normal relationship, they would just work this out, right? And one neighbor would pay the other neighbor just some trivial sum of money to permit this. and they would just convey the lot over. But this is not normal. This is New Jersey. Sorry, it's me. If you have to ask, you don't know. And so, of course, they litigate this all the way to the state Supreme Court. Right? So let's just walk through elements of adverse possession here, right? Was there entry? Yeah. Right? There's a trespass. Easy. Was the usage continuous? Yeah, it's been there for decades, right? But the second element and the fourth element are in dispute. So let's start with actually element number 4. You know, if you read the case, you know why. We'll come back to number 2 a few minutes later. Is that Johnny?
Yeah.
Johnny, help me out. Adverse and under a claim of right. What's going on here in New Jersey? What's going on with this fourth element? It's a little bit complicated.
Well, the staircase is built and it wasn't, I guess, hostile.
What was the rule in New Jersey before this case? What was the common law rule in New Jersey concerning the fourth element, claim of right? What's the main doctrine?
It's basically where you can't claim adverse possession through ignorance, inadvertence, or mistake.
What do you have to show to satisfy the common law main doctrine? What do you have to show, Johnny?
Hostility.
Hostility. You are the aggressive trespasser. Okay? So the standard of common law was what's called the main doctrine, the aggressive trespasser standard. You basically have to act in bad faith. You must know you're trespassing and do it anyway. If you enter by accident or mistake, not enough. You have to know you don't own it, but you want to take it. Mr. Robinson, aggressive trespasser all the way. Right? He's like, yeah, this is going to be mine in 3 years. I don't have it now. And in fact, Texas still follows the common law standard. So he was obviously did his homework, right? He followed the common law standard. So the common law rule is one of the aggressive trespass standard. But Alex, the New Jersey court says that the aggressive trespasser standard has been subject to a lot of criticism, right? Tell me about this. What's this criticism about? Why do people not like the aggressive trespasser standard, the main rule?
I think because it's sort of like a moral hazard problem.
Moral hazard? Oh my goodness, he definitely said it from Koolander. What's a moral hazard?
It creates like bad incentives.
Bad incentive. What incentives does this create?
You have sort of bad incentive. You want to take someone's land, so you have to have that.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex. The common law rule encourages people to be jerks, right? It encourages hostility. It encourages people to act adversely to their neighbors, right? It can lead to conflict. Remember self-help, right? So you see someone on your land, you shoot them, right? This is not a joke, right? I mean, I don't want to make light of this, but if someone's trespassing your property, like, I am squatting, that's nice. And then you can shoot them. So it's risky, right? The moral hazard, to use your framing, is it creates a hazard that people engage in reckless behavior. So this common law standard became criticized. Brylan, what does the New Jersey court do with the main doctrine, this common law standard?
They dropped the main doctrine, and I think they dropped the good faith standard.
Yeah, as I said, New Jersey, all common law rules go there to die, right? That's what happens. What's the good faith standard, Brylan?
You don't have to show hostility.
No, you do not. What do you have to show?
Just that you possess in good faith.
That's right. You thought it was yours, and you were mistaken. Right? You are almost always going to satisfy the fourth element. Right? Almost always. Right? It's, well, I thought it was mine, but you know, I was wrong. Sinclair, what's the third standard that exists in some states? You have the aggressive trespasser standard, We have the good faith standard. What's the third one called? We did two. We did aggressive. We did good faith. What's the third one? It's also in the notes. Yeah, read the notes, guys. Got to read the notes. Alexa, what's the objective standard? I'll come back to you, Sinclair. What's the objective standard? State of mind's irrelevant. It doesn't even matter what's your state of mind. 2 and 3 are pretty darn similar, right? There's not going to be much of a difference between 2 and 3. They're going to be satisfied in almost every case. Basically, what the Jersey court did here is they wrote out the fourth element of adverse possession. If there's entry, it's open and notorious and continuous, you win. Right? So they take a good faith standard. The guy built the staircase. He thought it was his. He was wrong, but you have the correct state of mind. So does, I'll come back to you, Sinclair. So does the squatter win here? Who wins in this case?
Well, they said that they could present it by mistake, but there wasn't any notice because it wasn't obvious. It was only 15 inches.
So what does the Jersey court do with the open and notorious standard? What do they do with that one?
That they say that it has to be visible.
Good. Okay. So in a case like this, where the trespass is again only 15 inches or so, there's no way the naked eye could even notice that. You need to have what's called a survey done, where you basically have an expert come in who does measurements with very precise tools, see where your property line actually is. And what the court says here is that there's no obligation of the owner to have a survey done to see if there's a trespass. It must be open and notorious, right? And since there's such a small area for an intrusion, not enough. A minor encroachment is not enough. So even though the court ruled in favor of the squatter on the fourth element, claim of right, they ruled against the trespasser on the second element, open and notorious. So as a result, it goes back to the trial court, but at the remand, squatter ain't going to win because there's not enough notice. And look what happened. They settled for $250. All this could be resolved for $200. Litigating, and by the way, lawyers are not cheap. Good for all of you, right? That's why you're all here. There's most of you here, I think, right? Lawyers charge a lot of money. And so you have litigating the dispute between two neighbors, and you have to think about this. They have to see each other every day. Every day they go to work, come home, and their enemy is next to each other. So again, if property disputes were resolved amicably, you would have no property class, right? The reason why this class exists is because people hate each other and fight in court. I'm serious. Look at every case in the syllabus. Valkenburgh, right? Manillo. Every case is people who can resolve stuff amicably and simply don't because they don't want to. It's dumb, right? All right. Questions on Manillo? Yeah, Jordan.
The good faith standard, the objective standard, they sound kind of like the same.
Yeah, that's what I said to Alexa. It's quite a minute ago. 2 and 3 are about the same.
Okay.
There's not much. It's not much of a difference. At least with good faith, you say, are they acting good faith? Yes. With objective, it's we don't throw good faith. So if they're in good faith, bad faith, no faith, they're gonna prevail.
So I guess for the good faith, they still would have like a state of mind. They think
Correct.
that it's
But everyone has a state of mind. You don't do something unless you're trying to acquire. So it's not going to be. It's very easy to satisfy.
okay.
All right. So let me wrap up a bit. Right. So we have our 4 elements. Pay very close attention to entry. I can trip you up on that very easily. If there's not an entry to the entire lot, right? There's not entry at all, even if there's a constructive possession with the deed. The open and notorious requirement, at least in New Jersey, they're very specific if they're minor encroachments. I think actually the Jersey rule is somewhat sensible, right? I think it's unfair to put someone on notice of such a minor trespass. But when you have Mr. Robinson sitting in the chair in the living room going on TV, that's when he's satisfied. For the continuous requirement, keep in mind, what are you actually doing in the land? It's not enough to be there X years. It's are you using the land in the manner in which the real owner would use it for that period. I think the New York court got it straight up wrong, but that is a precedent we have. And the fourth one, claim of right, you have to remember, what is your state of mind? Are you aggressive trespasser jurisdiction, or are you in a good faith jurisdiction? And I'll tell you that for the exam. You have to know the differences, right? If I say you're in a common law jurisdiction, you're aggressive trespasser. If I say you're in a modern jurisdiction, then you're the New Jersey one. You're the good faith standard. Questions? All right. Seriously, that was like a great class. Like, wow, these kids did their reading. My goodness. I want to ask you who did it better, me or Chris. I want to ask that one. I always like to, on the way out, just give a quick poll. You can use this whatever you want. If you want to tell me what you took away from the class, if you have a question that you're not certain about, if something bothered you, just short, just like 2 sentences. It takes a minute. I read these after class every day. I won't respond to them all, but I will try to, if I see trends or things that people are bubbling up, I will sort of address in this class. If you like cookies, tell me. Those are also good. Or anything else? All right, I'll let that run for another minute. Take your time, and I will see you all I'll see you all on Tuesday. Have a good weekend. Thank you. And if whoever has any extra 10 cards and markers, please just bring them forward. I'll be grateful.